Hey everyone, Rachel here with Things We Wear, and today I'm going to do a little tutorial about TukaTech. And this is a program that I've just started using this year in 2021, and I'll tell you why I'm using it and some features that I love. And then if you guys are interested, I'd love to do more in-depth tutorials on how exactly to use it. It is pretty different than Gerber and Clo, I suppose. Yeah, it's probably most similar to Optitex I've found. And the big difference, I think, it's like the way you select points and select things in general is pretty different from Gerber. So if you're used to using Gerber, TukaTech might be a little tricky for you at first, like it was for me, but you might find that it's really great for what you're doing. So the number one reason I really like TukaTech is it's really affordable and you can do subscription plans. So if you're a freelance person or you're just trying to do stuff at home, you can pay for 1 month. And the lowest tier is like $100 a month, I think, and then the highest tier is $500. And the $500 includes some like fancy made-to-measure features. Most people probably can get by on the cheaper version. I currently have the more expensive version, but I am going to try out using the cheaper version in the future. So I'll let you know how that goes. But yeah, it's for the affordability, and as a freelancer, this is like an amazing program to have, because if I don't have work for a month or I want to take a few months off, I can not subscribe, and I never have to worry about investing a ton of money into one software if, let's say 4 years out, that software doesn't stay up to date and then I have to buy new software. At least in this case, I never have to worry about updating, and I don't have to give up too much money at once. That can be hard when you're a freelancer to have that amount of cash just kind of sitting around, as you may know. And buying into, a program like Gerber or Optitex, I mean, that can be $10,000 maybe. So it is definitely a chunk of change. And that is what I love about TukaTech. All right, so let's create some pieces. So I'm going to start with just the rectangle piece, and pretty simple, right? So let's say I make a front, and I'm going to call it, let's say my front is going to be 23 inches long, and then width-wise, I'm going to make it on the half. And let's say I'm going to make a 19-inch chest, so 8.5. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not right. 9.5. There we go. Okay, so here's my front. And one of the big things with Tukadesign compared to Gerber. So Gerber saves each piece individually as a file, as you know, and then you gather them together into a model / cutter's must in AccuMark Explorer. So that's pretty different than how TukaTech works, which saves the whole pattern file as one file. So when I click save, I just click save. I'm not saving one individual piece the way you would in AccuMark. So it is, it is a different way of working, a different way of thinking about your pattern file. So here's your list of pieces will be here on the left side, or you can always rearrange, but this is where, I meant to make that bigger. All right, maybe I can't. We'll just leave it like that for the moment. But your piece remains there, and as I create new pieces, they will show up here on the left-hand side. And if I want to edit the piece, I just double-click on it, and let's say I want the piece name to be front. I'm going to call this my YouTube shirt. And I'm going to say cut to, actually, I don't know why I would say that. I'm going to mirror it. So cut 1, and it's going to be self. I can change the text size here. And if I'm going to have more than one piece, you would do this for the mirroring. So I'm just going to say none. And here's the size. I'll go over that in a bit. But yeah, that's pretty much all you need for the beginning. Let's click apply. And then let's just make a quick shirt here. So like Optitex, if you want to click a specific point, you can see I can just click anywhere and be like, I'm going to just like click here. Sure, I'll add a snap point. Yep. And then make my arch. And now I have a neckline. But another way I could do that, you can see it left grading points, which split the line, and now I can see the length exactly. Let's say I knew that I wanted my neck to be 6.5. So I'm going to press the Alt key while I click, and that brings up this dialog that says select first point. So absolute, so everything is going clockwise. So just similar to AccuMark or Optitex, it's going around this way. So if I want this to be 3, or if I want it to be 6.5 total, I want it to be 3.25 inch that way. So this is the previous point, and this is the next point. I want it to be 3.25. And I'm just going to press OK. And it's asking me if I want to basically join the line with the exterior line. You can say no, and then it would just be an interior line. But in this case, I do want it to cut out this arc, this neckline, so I'm going to say yes. And then I'm going to drag it here, press Alt. And I'm going to say, let's see here. So previous, let's say I want the front neck drop to be 3.25. That's a pretty good crew neck. Yeah, that'll be good. Click OK, stamped yes. And now I get to make my neck shape. If I press the Shift button, I can move the arc more freely. And if I let go of Shift, it's always going to create an arc that is symmetrical. So I actually think that for a neckline, you probably want symmetry, but sometimes it gets a little, sometimes you sort of have to adjust the shape to make it look good when it's sewn, if that makes sense. And as we all know, fabric stretches in different ways on different angles, so it's going to stretch more along the bias here as it's being sewn, or if it's a knit, even a knit on the bias will sometimes stretch more depending on the fabrication and how tight the knit is. So sometimes, you have to make pattern adjustments to compensate for sewing, but in this case, I'm just going to make it nice little round arc there. And here you get to choose the arc length. So if you actually know that you want a certain circumference for your neck, like it has to be 20 or something like that, this would be a great place to adjust it. So if I put in, let's see here, I'm going to remember that number, 5.33. Let's say I put in 5. See how it changes it? What's it if I put in 5.5? Now it goes further in. 3.3. It's perfect. It also gives me the radius and the depth, which is kind of interesting. And if I wanted it to just be an internal line and not cut out this and that line, I can create this. I can check that mark right there, but I want to create my neckline, so I'm going to click OK. Great. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing for the armhole. And let's make like a nice off the shoulder, maybe I'll make like a tank today. So it's going to be kind of a boxy tank. I'm going to hold down Alt, click here, and I think a good armhole depth, let's say it's like 7.5 inches. Yes. And now I'm just going to come in a bit. Let's say here. Yep. And then I'm going to use, in this case, I will use my Shift key to sort of create the shape that I want. There we go. Cool. Now I'm going to create some armhole or some shoulder slope, and I'm going to do that with this key. This is the multi-move key. V is the shortcut, and I like this key because you just select it and it brings up this dialog. So even though I'm only moving one point, it's just like quick and easy. I'm going to do, let's say I have a shoulder slope of 5/8. Click OK. There we go. So here is my front. Let's go ahead and mirror this piece. So this is the thing about Tukatech that is very similar to Optitex in that you have to select the line that you want first by holding down with your left select button on your mouse and dragging this red line to where you want it to end. So I could select, all of those lines, but I'm just going to select this line. And then you have to select first, often, and then you'll see that this came up. See, now when I didn't have that selected, that icon was not there. So I'm going to go ahead and select this again. And now I will click set half. There we go. So there, now it is on the half. Perfect. right, now I'm going to add some sizes to it. So let's just go in here. And right now it's just size as a 0. Let's say this is a small. And let's insert some other sizes. I'm going to say extra small, insert extra, extra small. Okay, and then append is at the end. So medium, large, extra large. Okay, so I'm going to keep my small that way. And if you don't like the colors, which actually I don't like the colors because I like my colors to be more different. Sometimes I like them to be in rainbow order. Silly, but it does make it easier to see what's going on. If I right click here, I can choose the color. So I'm going to start white, and then I'll go, just kind of try to go in like some cohesive order here. Orange, red, purple, and actually that purple might be too dark against this background. Let's go that color. There we go. And then blue, nope, too similar. Blue. Okay. Cool. So now you can see I have this grading table over here. If you don't have that grading table, just click on View and it shows you grading table. I also point out one other thing, View Piece View. This right here, Global Descriptions, this is where you're going to decide what shows up right here. So I have the style. I thought I gave it a, oh, because I haven't saved it yet, it doesn't have a style. But the code, I don't know if you remember, I did put in a code when I double clicked on the piece. I'm going to select that material. Okay, just saving on my desktop, yep. Okay, YouTube shirt, save. It says it has an empty material name. Let's find out. Oh, for some reason it didn't save that. Okay, so let's try this again. Code is YouTube shirt cut 1 self. Apply. There we go. See, now you can see there it is there. Code cut 1 self, and here's all the sizes. Okay, now I'm going to press save. Now let's add some seam allowance. So here's the seam allowance button. So now that I have it selected, I'm going to add the same seam allowance all the way around the body. I'm going to be 1/4 inch. And these are where you can select special angles. I haven't really quite mastered the angle thing, but I'm just going to leave it to kind of the basic angles for now. Apply. And then now I'm going to do the same thing for the hem and give it a nice fat hem, 1 inch. All right, cool. And if you want it to be a turn back, you can see it actually automatically is a turn back. It has that little note there, and it has this squared corner, but you could, if I select there, I can add notches too. And you can either even do a double seam. So let's say I wanted the second seam, it's a double fold, 0.5 inches, so you can see I have the 1/2 inch and then the 1 inch. Okay, so I'll keep it like that. Press save. All right, so now let's grade it. So here's how the grading works. Once you open that window, which would be View, oh, no. Oh, there it is. View Grading Table. Okay, I've never used the grading rules library. I suppose this is a way that you could grade, sort of that like old school way of grading. New rules. Yeah, I've never worked this way before. Interesting. So let's try this. Name, new grading rule. Let's say length. And I'm going to start all points or selected fixed rule. Let's say it's going to go minus 0.5. Okay. So, okay. So there you go. So very similar to the way that AccuMark works, or traditional grading works, which is that you have grade rules that are numbered, and then you put them in and you have to create a book of your numbers. I if that's the way you prefer to work, and a lot of people have that, like they've been working like that for years, totally fine. For me, I've never been a traditional grader, so I know and I understand grading, but I've never worked with grade roll numbers particularly. So I just input the data, and to be honest, I kind of like it that way because I have control over what I'm doing, and I can look at a style and say, you know what, this is what it needs, or this is not what it needs, and every style is a little bit different. So let's take bottom hem. I'm going to select that point. So it's going to move in the x-axis in the positive direction for the small sizes. Let's say it grades 3/8. So 3/8, oops. And then it's going to go in the negative direction on the bigger sizes. Minus 0.375, minus 0.375. Okay, cool. So now you can see the seam allowance and the seam are grading. I'm going to go ahead and turn off seam allowance just so not so many things to look at. I'll select that, Control C. I'm just going to apply it right there. So now I already have my X data. Now I need to grade Y. So if this is maybe a traditional grade, it's grading 2 inches total per size, so 1 inch on the half. So ½ inch per side, basically. So on the smaller sides, it's going to get smaller by ½ inch and bigger by ½ inch in the y-axis. There we go. Cool. So now I'm going to copy this, Control C, Control V, paste. Obviously this needs some work, but let me show you something. So first off, it actually did flip the grading. You can see in this way, the X is going that way for the larger sizes. It's going in the negative. And when I pasted it, for some reason, the X is going in the positive. So a quick fix for that, this is just the X-axis. Flip X grading. Oops, does that work? Oh, maybe I didn't have the point selected. There we go. Okay, now that's looking better, right? But I actually don't want the armhole to drop that much. I feel like a ½ inch per size is probably good. It really depends on the style and what's going on with the armhole. So I do think this could depend, but I often do like a ½ inch drop per size, because one thing that I'm sensitive to is when on larger sizes, the armhole gets just big and sloppy looking, and I think that's my pet peeve. So in the X direction, I'm just going to do, it's only going to grow a ½ inch up, and it's going to get a ½ inch in the negative direction on the larger sizes. There we go. Cool, so that looks better. Control S to save it. Rules library was changed. Nah, I don't need that. Okay, so now I'm going to do, this is actually not going to change in the X direction at all. It's just going to change in the Y direction. So typical cross shoulder grading I find is about a ½ inch per size, and this is alpha sizes. So I'm just going to do that. I am open to the argument that maybe it doesn't need to grade even that much once you get to larger sizes. I do find often on larger sizes that women, the shoulder seam is off of their shoulder. And I think this is probably true for men too, that, you know, it's not universal and everybody grades or, you know, is shaped in different ways. So a person who's an extra large can be very different than another person who's an extra large. And even if they have the same technical measurements, that fullness could be held in a different part of their body. So no one rule fits all. But I will say that one thing I've thought about is maybe even reducing this grade, especially like maybe once you get to large, it just doesn't, it only grades an 1/8, a quarter total. I'm not sure yet, but it's something that I've been kind of thinking about is like, do we really need that much across shoulder grade? I don't know. A topic for another day. So to the neck, I'm just gonna do, on smaller sizes, usually necklines get about a ½ inch per alpha size. So I'm gonna do minus an 1/8 because it's on the half, and then plus an 1/8, plus an 1/8, plus an eighth. And then for the front neck drop, usually most front neck drops will grow an eighth on a alpha size. So it's going to get higher. This is one thing you kind of have to think about, is moving higher on the smaller sizes and lower on the larger sizes. There we go. Cool. And the reason I really like using colors in this way for my gradedness is it's really simple for me to check my work here. So you can see the white line should be the smallest. It should be the highest neck, the one that's closest to the body. It has the smallest across shoulder and bust and sweep, and is shortest. So that makes sense to me. It's really easy when you're grading to accidentally confuse your x-axis or y-axis in the positive or negative. And so having colors that you can quickly identify, like this is wrong or this is right, it's going to help you a lot in your grading. So this looks pretty good to me. I'm going to press save. Yep. Oh, nope, that's not what I want. I'm going to press save. Okay, I don't know why that happened. All right, so now that it's saved, I'm just going to go ahead and create my back piece. So here we go. Back. Also going to be cut 1, apply close. And if I don't want to see my graded rolls anymore, I can just go to View, Show High Grading. All right, now I'm going to raise this back neck drop. I'm just going to use this tool. So it's 3 1/4 now. Let's say I want it to be 1 inch. So I'm going to raise it 2 1/4 inches. Here's what I'm going to do first. Is probably delete. Just select a few points, delete them. I don't need those guys. Then I'm going to use my multi-move tool. Select those 2 points. And I'm going to do 2.25 in the X direction. There we go. And this is the move point tool, shortcut Q. I'm just gonna, you don't have to have a point there. It'll add a point if you just select anywhere on the line. So that's a cool, nice feature. There we go. Okay, cool. So there's that. And let's flip this. Flip. I'm just gonna check my neckline circumference here. So here we go. And rotate. And then I'm going to click Rotate Piece Contour. I'm going to select, it's actually select any point on the segment to be rotated here. Oh, I did this wrong. Again, so you need to select the point first, then select Rotate, and then select anywhere that's going to guide the movement. So your reference point, basically. So here's my reference point, and I'm going to move it here. Perfect. Okay. And now I can double check my neckline shape. You know, one thing, I usually make the front and back shoulder slope a little different, and also armhole, so I probably should have done that first. But you know what? I think we're fine. You know, one thing I'm noticing too, I don't like this. It should be a 90-degree angle right there. There we go. This is a little flat looking. Nope. Oh, there's a point here. That's what the problem is. There we go. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to, this is rotate to green line. So if I just click that, it'll go back to its natural state of being. And I'm gonna just do something silly here. All right, so I'm gonna raise the back. I think most people will find that their front shoulder slope needs to be larger than their back. And I think that's less about, this used to be a really confusing subject to me. It's less about shoulder slope and more about creating length here, because the front of your body is longer than the back, and that's a lot because for women we have a bust, and so there's more shape to cover here. So you want like a more aggressive shoulder slope than in your front than your back. I think when it actually comes to your shoulder, some people would argue that that some of that has to do with the fact that your back shoulder is a little more built up and that you have a sort of natural hollow in your front. So another reason. But actually what I think I'll do is just lower this. So minus 0.125. Usually about 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, that's probably good. So I did that, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to make the back armhole a little bit bigger than the front. So I'm going to give it 1/4 inch, and then I'm going to take away 1/4 inch from the front. So now there's a 1/2 inch difference. So the reason that I do that is because, so one thing you'll notice is a lot of when you look at garments or a front pattern together, they'll often have this difference. And the reason for that is because what we're doing in effect is eliminating excess fabric in the front armhole that comes because you have a bust. Because you need more length here, you kind of need to clean up that armhole. There's a lot of ways to explain it, but that's one. And then one thing you'll notice here is, well, first off, this line got a little bit longer because I made it a little bit more angled. And you'll notice that this across shoulder is sticking out a bit. So if I keep these aligned, it doesn't really quite work anymore. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to align that. Maybe that's not quite what I meant to do. Okay. So I do want to do something to the neckline. This might be a whole nother tutorial, but let's take the back. All right, so I selected the back. You can see that I have the back selected. And I'm just going to draw a fold line. No, it's like here to there, about halfway through. So that line would represent high point shoulder. Okay. And I'm going to just fold. Folding is very confusing in this program, but let's see here. Select contour of piece. I don't think I'm doing this right. Nope. Let me try this again. Fold in. There we go. Okay, so now you can see that the front neck is actually too wide compared to the back, and that's because we shifted it because of that increased angle. So what this means is that if this was sewn together, it's not really ever going to lay, it's going to feel twisted because you can see that these lines don't align here. And even though it aligns right there, it doesn't align right here. And so you're going to have an excess of fabric in the front neckline, which already is often an issue for people, especially women who are bustier because they have more of a hollow when it comes to their neckline compared to the rest of their body. So in order to change that, I'm just going to select the move point or Q, and then I'm going to just move this to match. And there we go. So now it's a nice balanced neckline. Sometimes I will say I reduce the front neckline even more than this. If depending on the neckline finish, if it's very wide and open, if it's gapping away from the body, you know, it really depends. But if you think about the shape of a person, we're more concave in our back area and we're more convex, more hollowed out in our front neckline area. So it does make sense that your front neckline might be a little bit smaller than your back. But when it comes to just drafting a pattern, this is what I like to see. I want to see it that it all kind of folds together and aligns well. And it's a good place to start, and then you can always adjust it from there. But this is how I like it. And then sometimes getting it to fold out is a little confusing. Let me see if I can get this to work out. Fold out, select the line. Okay, I guess that worked. And for some reason there's this extra line here, so I'm just going to delete it. There we go. Okay, so that is my basic shirt and YouTube tank view, show, hide, seam. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so I'm going to just press save. Now I'm going to show you a super cool thing on Tuka that I am obsessed with. So if I click print, I'm just going to have it set up as an Adobe PDF. And, okay, let's see here. Yeah, factor. So you want to make sure your factor is set to 1. So that means it's not making it smaller or larger. And you're not set at fit to page, because otherwise it's just going to print out a mini version of your pattern, which might be what you want. But let's say you want to print this out on your home computer. You don't have access to a plotter. I'm just going to click factor 1 and then OK. And let's try again. Okay, file, print. Oh, setup. Oh, okay, that's the issue. So you want to make sure it's also set to, so it would have printed to my printer had my printer been connected. Right now I'm going to press OK. And okay, so I'm going to get a, okay, so here's my desktop, and it's just going to automatically save as Tukadesign YouTube shirt. And I press save, and then it's going to pop up, and here it is. There you go. So you can see here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this way you can easily plot from your home printer, which is, if you work in the industry, you know that's such a gift. It's so easy and nice. And then if you want to print or plot, just do arrange work area. Let's say you know that your plotter is 36 inches. It's a pretty typical plotter width, especially if you don't have like one of those huge industrial ones, you know, like a Gerber printer plotter. So 36 inches, and you have all these options here. You can show visible sizes only, or I can show all the sizes. Show hidden, I don't know what that means. Show hidden half, so that's going to show the mirrored sides. I'm going to click OK. So now it arranged it. And then I'm going to go to File, Plot. And here I get to select, if I wanted every one of these sizes plotted out, I select all of those. And it can plot it as a graded nest, or you can plot each size separately. And it's just going to be pushed out to this folder here, Plotters PDF. So I'll show you that in a minute. I just sent it. We'll pull that up for you. Those are, let's see here. Oops. Okay, here it is as a PDF. Oh. Something weird happened with the hem there. So see, this is why you plot things and you check them. Sometimes funky stuff happens. I'll have to fix that. But here's every size. So you can see this is the medium. This is the medium still. There's the large. Yeah, so pretty cool. And you can open this PDF in Illustrator if you want and compile things or do whatever you need to do. I know a lot of people use Illustrator for pattern making corrections or just kind of saving it for yourself. So the cool thing about PDF is you can use it in Illustrator. So awesome tool. Yeah, so that is my little brief intro. I hope that's been helpful. It wasn't super brief, but it was something. Yeah, if you have questions you want to know about Tukateech, if you want to see me do something specific, or it can be technology related or practicality or pattern making specific, like you want to know more about shirts or knits or whatever it is, leave me a message in the comment section and I will get back to you. All right, well, thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.